Hi, I'm Susan Haines with Dance Conditioning Technique, and I'm excited to offer you a foot mobility workshop today as part of the Apolla Performance video offerings. So this is going to make your feet feel fantastic. If you've discovered Apolla Performance shocks, then you are all about feet feeling fantastic. So you are in the right place. So the work we're going to do today is about getting the bones of the foot moving, activating through all of the arches of the foot, and getting the bone rhythm established to support the spiraling of the foot that needs to happen for all gait, for movers and shakers of all levels and kinds. So you're going to need two small towels, dish towels, small bath towels. I've got my 2 towels here, and first we've got to do a little bit of laundry folding. So you're going to take your first towel and you're going to fold it in half long ways, and then you're going to fold that in half so you have a really long column of a towel, and then we're going to roll that up so you'll find that end and you'll make a little as tight as you can, doesn't have to be perfect, rolling up that towel. So you've got your first roll and you can set that down, and then we will make our second towel roll and just set it aside. So we are going to go 1 foot at a time to get the most bang for our buck here. So you make your tall column and then you start that roll through. And you've probably rolled your feet out with tennis balls, maybe lacrosse balls, but we're going to get a different sensation with the towels, and I love using things that you might have on hand anyway. Spend your money on your shocks for that amazing support while you are moving and grooving, and you can use some dish towels for your foot mobility workout. So set the second towel off to the side, and we will get started with that right foot. And so if you have a smaller sized foot, you might discover that this is too thick. It is, of course, going to compress when we stand on it. But if your foot feels like this is just too much, there's not enough on either end for the movement, you might want to unroll this a little bit and have a smaller towel loop, or adjust your towel as needed for your footwork. And so I'm going to start with just a little stretching out of the fascia underneath the foot. I'm getting just a little glide back and forth. Then I'm going to bend my knee and go into that forward and back rock. And I am getting a little stretch through the Achilles and stretch through the calf. And then I'm going to straighten the leg, and I'm going to get a little more weight through that bridge of bones in the midfoot. And getting those bones moving is, or jostling up against each other, gliding against each other, is really important for our proprioception. That when the body senses that those bones are doing their glide and having their little jostling up and down against each other, then it says, whoa, something's going on with my human. I need to make sure that I am sending more attention neurologically to that area. Something's going on down there. I can sense better what's the input that's coming in from the foot. So the more we get those bones moving, the more receptive they are going to be for our balance through those proprioceptors. So really getting some movement there. And I like the towel for this better than a tennis ball, because you're able to get a little wider spread on the foot. We're not just rolling through that smaller area. So I do like the towel for that. And so then you're going to start with the heel is on the floor, and I'm going to put the ball of my foot on the towel, and my toes just get to have a little curling over the front of the towel there. And I'm going to start a little back and forth, could almost turn into a little figure 8 swim, but I'm getting that movement relationship of the foot and ankle together. And the heel is trying to stay static. It is moving a little bit, of course. It's responding to this. Yeah. And then I'm going to play with that fascial stretch here. So I'm going to bend my knee and get a little glide through. I am pushing through the ball of my foot, right behind the ball of my foot in that transverse arch. I am pushing that into the towel. I'm getting a really nice sensation of feedback push from that point. And I'm getting a nice stretch out of the fascia underneath my foot and a little through the Achilles and the calf. And I think a lot of dancers have stopped stretching their calves because of that study on the Australian ballet dancers. They said, calf stretching is bad. Do not stretch your calves. Instead, strengthen your calves. This is a great study. This was important information. However, they're talking about a static held stretch for a long period of time. And so if we've stopped stretching out our calves because we read this study and we want to do the best we can for our body, well, we're missing out on stretching out that plantar fascia. So we do want to get that springing coil and uncoil of that plantar fascia, and we find that by a dynamic stretch. So just want to clarify, when is a dynamic calf stretch good and the static calf stretch that can inhibit the muscle when you need it to be strong? When is that not serving your strength? So I think there's a lot of information out there, and sometimes we need to sort through it a little bit more realistically. So then we're going to shift and put the ball of the foot on the floor, and I've got the bones of the midfoot and the ankle joint on the towel. And I'm going to do that same thing back and forth. It might turn into a little figure eight, finding pressure on both sides. And just notice if your hip and your knee are trying to initiate this. We really want it to be a relationship between the foot and the ankle. So see if you can make that happen. And then we're going to play with little circles. And so I'm keeping contact with the towel, but I'm trying to get the bones of the midfoot to come up, circle around, drop down, and through. And my toes might come off the floor slightly. My big toe might come off the floor. My pinky toe might come off the floor if I get a big enough circle. And then I'm going to reverse the direction. I'm giving you a nice dancey demo with my hand. That we want the bones of the midfoot to find that circle. And I'm getting movement all the way through the metatarsals and the toes. And I think this can be a little research trial for you. If you are used to cranking turnout or pushing weight onto the outside edge of your foot, that first position might feel really comfortable for you, and your foot might not have as much awareness on the inside of that circle. And the reverse is also true. If you fall into a navicular drop or a lot of pronation, then that inside line is going to feel comfortable for you, and you're not going to have as much comfort or awareness on that outside circle. So this can be a really good sense of awareness and figuring out what part needs a little better connection from all the way down there up to the motor control center. And so then from here, I'm going to go into a little bit of a diagonal. So I'm going to put weight on the back edge of this heel. I'm going to cross over the towel and try to push my big toe down. Back edge of the heel, big toe. Back edge, big toe. So it's the outside edge of the heel, spiraling through the foot to that big toe. You might exaggerate it a little bit to find that diagonal, to find that spiral. I'll turn straight on so you get a better view of this. Outside edge of the heel, spiraling up and over to the big toe. So I'm thinking about shooting it right across to find that bone rhythm of the foot, that spiral that happens in gait, or no matter what we are doing, there is a traversing from one foot to the other for most folks. Yeah. And then come on off the towel and check in with that foot. Hopefully it feels like you've got a better sense of that arch, the longitudinal and that transverse arch. And there's a little more spring connecting you to the rest of your body. So now we'll move on to the left foot. If you're a purist, you can use your second towel for the second foot. If not, you can use the same roll, just move it on over to the other side. So we're going to start getting that little stretch through that plantar fascia, just a little rocking through. And I've got the towel underneath the arch of my foot, that mid-arch, longitudinal arch that runs front to back. And so I'm starting with just a little stretch through. I'm going to bend the knee and get a little more glide. I'm rocking toes and heel back and forth. I'm getting a little more stretch through that plantar fascia. And then I'm going to add a little weight shift. So now I've got the towel pushing through that bridge of bones and the midfoot right underneath the ankle bones. And finding that nice pressure. And again, I like the towel because it's helping us bring awareness to the whole foot, not just a small space with a tennis ball. And you can self-regulate the level of pressure here. If this feels like too much for you, you can back off. If you want a little bit more, I would say add a little bit more push as you go up into that weight shift. Yeah. What I don't want you to do is to grab at the ankles or tense up the feet. I think we miss so much foot motion because we're grabbing at the ankles. We're trying to get stability from the ankle to cover for stability at the hip or the trunk. And so if we can let that ankle joint soften a little bit, then we're going to be able to tap into that stretch and glide of the plantar fascia. We'll find that bone rhythm and things will work better from the bottom up. So I think if it feels like you're holding in the ankles as you move through this, see if you can let that go and just give in to gravity with that push. Easier said than done, but we will keep working on it. It's a really important thing for all humans to find. And so then we're going to put the heel on the floor and the towel is underneath the ball of my foot. And I've got some nice pressure pushing those toe knuckles up, and so I can see them rising up as my toes curl over. And I'm going to start that little back and forth. I'm going to notice if my knee and hip are trying to do this for me so it feels bigger. And I'm going to back off and I'm going to make sure that it's my foot and my ankle in relationship, which is a really different feeling than directing it from the hip and knee. Obviously, the knee and hip are going to react, but we want it to start from the movement of the foot and ankle. Yeah. And then we're going to shift into the ball of the foot off of the towel, and we've got that nice pressure through that midfoot. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do my little inversion, eversion, back and forth, noticing if one feels more familiar than the other. And neurologically, this is helping to, again, wake up those proprioceptors and help that feedback loop to the central nervous system, through the motor control center, to say, oh, there's a lot that my human wants to do with their feet. How do I make sure I'm getting the best feedback and I'm sending back the right information for how much muscle activation do they need for a certain movement? So now we're going to start those circles. And so I'm going to keep the ball of my foot on the floor. And I'm not really lifting up. It's not very big and exciting. This is really small micro work to help build awareness and help reset some patterns that you might want to reset. So I'm trying to find that circle. My big toe might come off when I reach the far edge. My pinky toe might come off when I reach the far edge, but I'm taking that little circle through. Yeah, and then I'm going to go the other direction. I might need to reposition, make sure there is pressure on the towel, and that the ball of my foot can come down. And then I start that circle. It might be more like an oval for you purists out there. And I'm just noticing, do I have as much mobility on the inside as I do the outside? And might give you a little hint as to your habits in motion or trying for stability with that circle. Yeah. And then the last one is I find that place in the middle of my foot. It's through the arch, and I put weight on the outside edge of the heel. I spiral through, and then I connect that big toe. Outside edge of the heel, spiral through to big toe. I'll turn that straight on so you can see it. Outside edge, spirals through. I make contact with the big toe. All of my toes are touching there, of course. I'm just trying to have a little more awareness of that spiral of the foot, where those bones have to glide and maneuver, and all of those tissues gliding and sliding to support you. So outside edge and through, outside edge and through. Yeah. And so then check in. Things should feel pretty springy. You can do a little balance test on one leg. And then we're going to do a few things on 2 feet. So now is where the other towel came in. And you can see that one is pretty flattened and the other is nice and poofy. So we will get it even with the other one. You may need to do the same thing. So we're going to start with the towels underneath the arches. We're trying for kind of feet balanced right in the middle. And with that, I'm going to feel this gathering up from the bottom up. It's going to tap into the diaphragms of the body, the arches, pelvic floor, diaphragms, all up through the trunk. So finding all of those lifting, because we're challenging it with that pressure of the towel. So I'm just going to do that rock back and forth, heels touch, ball of the foot, heels and toes. And again, if this is too much towel for you, please readjust. You might need a smaller sphere to use. Yeah. And then we're going to veer from side to side. So I'm taking that inversion, eversion through. And I'm trying to initiate this from the ankle. Again, building that awareness, building that proprioception. Once you get going, especially advanced movers, I think they're going to want to do it from the hips. And we want to be really clear that it's coming from the foot and ankle in relationship. Yeah. And then take a few little knee bends. And then come on off. Check in with your feet. And things should feel nice and lifted. We've got one more exercise. And we're going to place the towels offset as if you are using them for a step forward. So I'm going to use this to rock forward onto the ball of my right foot as I push off of the left. So I do want to have good contact with the balls of my feet. So I'm just playing with that propulsion forward. And I do want to really push into my left big toe, because that's what's going to help extend the hip, kick on that left glute. I'm sure the Apolla Performance folks know that how could I give any talk, any workshop, without it coming around to the butt? And so here we are. Yes, making sure that we're pushing through that left big toe to access that glute stability. Yeah. And then we'll trade out sides. You can stay the same if you are playing along at home. So I've got my position of the right foot, ball of the foot down, position of the left foot. And so I'm sending myself up and over, making that connection through the left big toe, and rocking back and forth, activating through those diaphragms of the body for a little more lift. That fascial spring with the stretch of the plantar fascia. Yeah, I'm feeling that push of the right big toe to activate that right glute. A little more propulsion forward. Yeah. And then go ahead and come on off. Check in. Things should feel nice and lifted. Should feel like your arches might even be a little higher. But you can kind of notice that there's a springiness in your step that connects through the whole body. So if you like this micro work, there's a lot more for you on my website, danceconditioningtechnique.com. I've got video subscriptions for feet and hips and core and so much more. So a big shout out of love to the Apolla Performance family. I love getting to share my super nerdy dance science and better movement for all with these workshops. So have a fabulous time with your newfound foot mobility.